صلى الله عليك يا نبي الله صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة ويا باب نجاة الأمة غريب مذلوم كربلاء صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما إن يوم الحسين أقره جفوننا وقال إمامنا الحسين يا أبا عبد الله لا يومك يومك يا أبا عبد الله. The Prophet of Islam once is walking through Medina when he hears a child is crying. There was a teacher who told of his student and the child was crying. Prophet of Islam says, I went up to that teacher. I said, for the sake of the Prophet of Islam, can you do one thing? He said, yes, Ya Rasulullah. He said, never make this child cry again in your life. He said, Ya Rasulullah, it's normal, it's usual that when there's a teacher, he tells off the student, the child will cry, the student will cry. He says, yes, but this child cries just like my son Husayn. And Rasulullah cannot bear to hear that which sounds like the voice of Husayn crying. For people are tired, their chests have become weak, their throats have become dry crying for Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. But one thing is in the minds of all mu'mineen. There was an alim who in Iran said it was the day of Ashura, the days of Ashura. He said, I recited 10 majalis in one day for Husayn. I was tired, I was going back to my house. When a person said, can you recite at least one more? So I went there, I recited a few lines of Masaib, and I went. She says, in my dream I saw the mother of Husayn alayhi salam. She said, as a gift to you, I will give you one thing. This reciter was well known in Iran. He would recite one line and everyone would begin to cry. Why? The gift of Zahra. She says, all you will have to tell the people is Sallallahu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. That's it. And this is enough for people to cry for Husayn. Ayatollah Mar'ashi Najafi writes in his will that when I die and pass away, take my body to the Husayniyah for the Husayniyah which I spent and built. Tie one end of my turban to the minbar. Tie the other end to my grave. And get a Ruza Khan, get a person to recite Masaib. But make them recite no other Masaib except for this one. He says, then take my body to the Haram of Sayyidah Ma'sooma. Again, tie one end of my turban to the dhari, one end to my grave, to my qabr. And get another Roza Khan, again only this Masaib. Then when you are about to put the earth over my body, just before you close my grave, again get one other person. And tell them to recite no other Masaib except for this. Which Masaib? It says, tell them to recite no other Masaib but the Masaib of the last salam of Zainab from Husayn. When Zainab gives her last farewell from Abu Abdullah, the lines that we have recited daily, as you know, are the lines of Zainab al-Kubra, where she would say, this is Husayn al-Madhloom, the one that was oppressed, al-Maqtool, the one that was killed, Al-Majruh al-Latshan, the one that was injured whilst he was thirsty. Then she says, Al-Madhbuh min al-Qafa, because there are two ways I can cut someone's head. The first is to cut the head and the neck from the front. The second is to cut it from the back. She says the one whose head and neck was cut from the back, Al-Madhbuh min al-Qafa fi yawm Ashura, on the day of Ashura, fi ardi Karbala, on the land of Karbala. She says bila jurmin wala khata, for no reason was my brother killed. Alladhi ghusluhu damu, the ghusl of Husayn was his own blood. Wa kafanuhu rimail Karbala, and the kafan of Husayn was the sand of Karbala. She says muqatta'ul a'dha'i maslubul imamati wal rida, his limbs were cut piece to piece, his turban and clothing was taken from his body. Husayn says I came towards the women and the children. When no longer anyone was left, I would say Al min nazirin yansurni. No one was left. I told Zainab and Kulthum and the other women that this is the last farewell of Husayn. Narrations say the women surrounded Husayn. They said, we will never let you go, Ya Aba Abdullah. First take us back to Medina. Suddenly Zainab says, I hugged Aba Abdullah. I said, I cannot let my brother go. Husayn says, I prayed to Allah that only Allah can separate Zainab from the chest of Husayn. Husayn says, suddenly Zainab came up from my chest. She says, Ya Aba Abdullah, put old clothing on your body. He places this clothing, he goes into the tents. He says, I saw Sayyid al-Sajjad. Sayyid al-Sajjad says, I came out of consciousness. I came into consciousness. I saw a man in front of me. The narration says, he asked Zainab, is this my father, Aba Abdullah? She says, this is Husayn. He says, what happened to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? Husayn says, qad qutil, he was killed. Then he would say, and what about Ali al-Akbar? He said, qad qutil. He would ask, Husayn said, let me make it easier for you. In all of Karbala there are only two men remaining, me and you, Ya Sajjad. Husayn then, after giving his farewell to the women, goes forward, when suddenly behind him he hears Mahlan, Mahla, Ya Ibn al-Zahra. He turns behind, he sees Zainab is walking behind Husayn. He says, oh Zainab, I already gave you my last salam, what do you want? She says, I remembered the wasiyah of my mother Zara, who said, when Husayn is leaving you for one last time, show the neck of Husayn to your Zainab and kiss the neck of Husayn. Zainab says, I kiss the neck of Husayn. Husayn says, and I remember the wasiyah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Zainab, show me your arms, because Amir al-Mu'mineen said, these are the arms that will be covered in the chains after you go. Husayn then separates from Zainab. She goes back into the tents. He says, I got on to Dhul Janah, but Dhul Janah I was not going any further, I said, Ya Dhal Jannah, all of Karbala, you have helped me, why now do you not go any further? Husayn says, I looked at the feet of this horse, and there was Sakina bintul Husayn, who was holding the feet of Dhul Jannah, saying, where will you take my father? Because whoever has gone does not come back. Husayn says, I took Sakina, I said, sleep on the chest of your father for one more time. Sakina sleeps on the chest of Husayn, then Husayn takes her off and he sits on the horse. And as he would go to the battlefield, they say Husayn would go and fight one side of the battalion in Karbala, then he would come back and say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Then he would go to the other side, then he would come back. Zainab says, whenever I would hear him saying these words, I would know that Husayn is still alive, until suddenly Umar bin Sa'd says, do you not know this is the son of Ali? You cannot kill him like this. Whatever you have in your hands, throw it on the body of Husayn. Some would throw their rocks, others would throw their spears and arrows, until ban al-inkisar fi wajh al-Husayn. Husayn would then fall on the ground, but his body did not touch the ground, because there are so many arrows in the body of Husayn, his body does not touch the ground. Zainab says, I did not hear him call out, La hawla wa la quwwat. I began to see, where is my brother Husayn? Husayn is lying on the ground of Karbala. Umar bin Sa'd sends one individual. This person says, I came up to Husayn with a dagger in my hand. Husayn looked at me and said, oh person, Ya Abdullah, have you prayed your salah today? The person began to scream. He dropped the dagger on the ground. He says, I cannot kill this individual. He runs away. No one else has the courage to finish the life of Husayn, until one person, Shabbar bin Dhul Jawshan, he says, I came towards Husayn. I lived in the head of Abu Abdullah. Sahib Zaman says, one of the greatest tragedies of Karbala was when Shimr Jalisun ala Sadr al-Husayn, that Shimr was sitting on the chest of Abu Abdullah. Zainab would cry out, Husaynan wa Husaynan wa Husayna, Ghariban wa Ghariban wa Ghariba. In fact, Zainab at that moment has a line where she says, A'anta akhi, are you my brother? All of the wounds on the body of Husayn that Zainab doesn't recognize Husayn. Shabbar says, I was sitting on his chest. The narration says he would take a dagger and stab the Imam many times, until a time would come where Shabbar says, I tried to cut his neck, but Shabbar says, I would try at one time and then I would stop, and then I would try a second time, and then I would stop, and I would say, whenever I try to cut the neck of this man, I can hear a woman whispering in my ears, saying, Waladi, Waladi, Qataluka Shanaya. They are killing you whilst you are thirsty. Jibreel comes down, he says, Zahra, get away from Husayn, otherwise Allah will cause Qiyamah on this earth. Allah la'natullah.